Welcome to the Movement Podcast. This show is all about movement, giving you a better idea of how you can optimize the human body to be the best it can be. Welcome to this episode of the Movement Podcast. I'm super excited today, Gray, because we've actually got two of our closest friends and allies from across the pond, from Sarajevo, in the studio with us. They made the trek over here. They actually spent the last week at Exos. And they're going to be providing education in their region of the world on the Exos and being mentors on the Exos methodology. But before they actually did that, we have partnered with them, and they have been tremendous partners of FMS. They teach our education, really are some of the great ambassadors, some of the best ambassadors, just getting to know them. And they've turned into great friends, great people that, we wanted to. So fortunate that we've been able to bring them into the studio today. So Adnan and Almir are here with us. And Almir, thank you so much for being a part of the podcast today.
Well, Lee, great. Thank you so much. You wouldn't believe how kind of surreal it is really for us to be sitting with you guys today here, because you've made such an impact on our lives and made an effort, actually contributed to our development and made us what we are today. And we're really honored to be here. And to talk to you about how we work, how we deal with clients, and how we implement everything we've learned through the FMS adventure.
And the thing that blew me away, and I just found out, is you never saw us live until you saw Lee do an FCS in 2018. So everything you knew about what we do and our methodology was online. And as good as you're doing it, it actually makes me think we didn't do such a bad job bottling a lot of that stuff, because a lot of times people do request a live experience, but if you take what you even hear in an online experience and go start applying it, you'll have the exact same type of experiences you had, I think.
I mean, obviously it was not possible for us at the beginning to see you guys live. Everything we've done was based on different formats, YouTube videos, online education, FMS, level 1, level 2. And it was sufficient information for us. If you're dedicated to it, if you study it well, and if you understand it and appreciate everything it brings, I see absolutely no problem whatsoever in applying it correctly and getting the results that we get.
Got a question real quick. Online education is one thing, but Lee and I are all over YouTube not doing certifications. We're just talking. We're just showing something, talking. I'm doing a whiteboard. Lee's down on his knee pressing something. Outside of our education online, what have you enjoyed or used as an example on just the YouTube? Because a lot of people use YouTube for education right now. It's a separate thing, but I'm always, what has entertained you that we've done compared to education?
I mean, for me personally, I would say, although we are someone who had studied you most. If I had a chance to check, I think we are probably in the top league of those who study you and what you do and how you do it. We've profited enormously from the whiteboard talks, from any like dissections, explanations, how mobility works, how stability works, like optimum performance pyramid, toe touch progressions. I'm just now throwing things out of the top of my head, but pretty much anything you guys have posted, we've seen it, and not only once, but more times. And I always say to Adnan, it's funny how when you go back to some of the things that we've seen at the very beginning, we see them now. I was like, man, how did we miss this information? How did we miss this connection? But obviously, as we grow as coaches, as business owners, we start paying attention more, and we can absorb more of the quality information that is provided. Sometimes some of that information just goes above my head, but once I grow as a coach, then go back, I can relearn from the main things.
Well, one thing I'll say, and I'll somewhat speak for Gray, he can certainly chime in, I know he will, but it's very humbling for us to, you're a living, breathing, example of what we have been doing for, 20 years. And I think, we're in a small town. You guys are here, and sometimes people can't believe that Gray and I are in a small town, but it's hard for us to realize when we're in the studio, we're doing the whiteboards, what type of reach we have. So it is humbling for us to know that you took our online education and applied it, and you're impacting people in your part of the world. And one thing that I spent years doing is traveling around the world and trying to meet people like you. And when I say humbling, I mean, it's it's one thing to, have our education be consumed and, you're teaching it or you're teaching it to your clients, but then you take it to a different level. And the point I'm trying to make here in a roundabout way is it is the people. And, we've been very fortunate for FMS to be able to connect with the right people, whether it's our partners in Japan, China, Brazil. You met Roy this past week at Exos. He's a great partner. And it's not just that you're taking the education. It's that you've got the right mindset. You're part of the FMS family. And for me, that's very humbling to be able to be lucky to a degree that we're able to connect with people like you. And you're out there, and you and your brother out there taking what we do in this little town to a different level.
You've changed our lives first to start with, but then once we started applying everything we've been learning from you would be surprised to see what kind of effect you have on lives of people you will never see in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and all the coaches that we get to educate that then go back to their communities and then change philosophies. Because at the beginning, one of the biggest challenges for Adnan and me was to accept that we know very little, because we've had a harsh truth of realizing that the fact that I'm world-class, strong, and powerful does not necessarily mean that I'm going to be a world-class javelin thrower. And so we needed to say to each other, man, you know nothing. We don't understand this. We are failing miserably. We need to change a lot of things about how we approach movement and training. And then once we've done that, we're now helping other people. We've said, okay, if we've managed to change, now let's try to help others understand. And let's just spread this message across the region. And there are more and more people who are approaching the concept of human body training the way we see it. And I was a couple of months ago, I was in a podcast, and the guy asked me, it was in Serbia, and the guy asked me, are you aware of the impact that you're having on the region? I said, well, I don't know. I mean, yeah, we had around, I don't know, through different educations, we had around 1,200, 300 people. And he says, yeah, but do you know how many coaches there are working currently in the region? I said, I don't know. He says 15,000. So you have covered 10% of the market with your education. And he says, and everyone I see tells me, when I ask them, so how do you do? They tell me testing, screening, individualized approach, which means that you've made a significant impact. That was sort of revealing to me that really we made a difference over the past years.
The one piece of pushback we get, because we hear the pushback more than we hear the success, because you're so busy applying the model, you don't have time to give me a thumbs up or a like. And that's okay, because he and I are in a lot of selfies with a lot of people that don't really follow the process. They're inspired by maybe one thing that we say or one thing that we've done, but they really don't roll up their sleeves and go through the process. And most people will argue we don't have enough time. And I honestly think you're on the other side of the fence with us is I don't have enough time not to, because I can't waste time in the programming mistakes that I'm easily going to make, because I don't have a crystal ball either. The process is I'm an ultra creative sort of
pain in the ass.
Yeah, I'm all of that. But realize that the only way I could ever be considered an expert is I had to adopt the standard operating procedure that I trusted when I left the room. I'd like to think I can come to the room and add a little value, because I've got 30 years on the job and I've seen a lot of stuff and done a lot of stuff. But I never, ever dishonor how long it takes to stack the dominoes right. And as you get good, it doesn't hurt your business. It doesn't take extra time. But I tell you, when you start expanding your staff and somebody just doesn't get that philosophy, and you give them a lot of opportunity to drink from that cup and they can't handle it. Some people got a full cup, and you said something very important there. You emptied your cup out so you could put some new stuff in there. And I think we've all had to do that. And you don't just do it once. You do it in every cycle of your career in one thing. The wearable technology and the things I've learned in the last 10 years have changed the way I practice. The stuff I learned about movement the 20 years before that changed the way I practice. The way I blend them together now for somebody who just wants longevity or somebody who's on the professional golf tour is totally unique and creative. But I respect the data and I'm willing to work within it, because if you're have developed the kind of confidence I think the four of us in this room have, I want the numbers on the page before we start this journey, because I'm going to move the bar. I'm going to advance the thing. I'm going to show you an improvement that most others couldn't. And a lot of people think they're doing that, but if you don't set the baseline first, you may not know if you're missing the target.
All right, let's take a quick break here to tell you about Simeo. Simeo is our holistic wellness platform designed to give you the tools and resources to assess, manage, and improve your clients' and patients' overall health and wellness. Go to Simeo.com to sign up for a free trial today. That's SYMMIO.com.
We got 2 new courses I think you'll like. One's a deep dive on mobility and one's a deep dive on stability. We really unpack that and show you how simple single corrective exercises aren't nearly as good as a meal of mobility assembled in a flow, in a set of stations. Do the same thing for stability. It's sort of a new way of looking at things, but it's that same old functional approach, just with nice packages that actually give you huge dividends.
Before we go too far into that, or like the training, and Grace said something right there, and you said it as far as emptying your cup and kind of resetting your mind as far as training. But I think you have such an interesting story about how you got to the point where you quote unquote emptied that cup. Give us your background, your story about how you got to where you started embracing our methodology, because our methodology is not kind of mainstream, if you will, especially in strength and conditioning.
Well, I was when I was younger, I was a junior years. I was in track and field, so I was a triple jumper. I was champion of Bosnia and Herzegovina in triple jump. Then they thought, oh, this guy is kind of strong and have good endurance. Why don't we put him on 400-meter hurdles? Which, if you know anything about track and field, you know that that's the most devastating discipline ever.
It sucks so bad.
So bad. Like I think that's the only discipline after which there's no handshakes. Like you complete 400 meters, you are in the.
They made me do that in high school until I could take a first and second in the shot and discus, and then I didn't have to run the hurdles anymore. I'm like, that was my motivation.
That's it. So anyway, and from that I moved into decathlon, and with the start of university, because track and field in Bosnia and Herzegovina is really not supported, they said, like, we cannot provide anything, any scholarship, anything. I said, okay, then I focus on my studies. So I left track and field. I got back to track and field during my PhD studies, so training a little bit here and there, and of course, a track and field guide, what do? You go to track. So I was on the track, running, a little bit of jumping. There was a gym there. I joined the gym, a little bit of weights. I'm thinking, well, I should probably go back to some systematic training. And I quite liked javelin throwing, because I had the best results in javelin throwing within the decathlon without really training it. Why? Because I was fast, I was strong, I was powerful, and that was sort of translating nicely into the javelin. And then I went online and tried to sort of find how to systematize my approach to javelin training. And then I come across the tests, a set of tests of Tom Petranov. And Tom Petranov, for those who don't know, he's a former world record holder, world champion, a guy because of whom the discipline has changed, because he was starting to throw over 100 meters. And I say hi to Tom if he's listening by any chance. In any case, they had to move the center of mass of the javelin so that it doesn't fly over 100 meters. It starts falling down quicker, because otherwise he's going to start killing people in the audience. And so I find his tests. I do his tests. I send him an email. I'm thinking like, okay, that's Michael Jordan of javelin throwing. The worst case scenario is he doesn't respond, and that's it. In any case, Tom responds within half an hour. Wow, what a story. Here's my number. Give me a call. So I call Tom, I speak to him, and long story short, he becomes my supervisor from distance, send me programs, I start working out, and at some point he says, would you be able to come to the United States? I say, sure. So I go, I live in his house, do some training sessions with him. His wife is preparing meals for me, and we are basically, everything we see, I should be on the track for London Olympics 2012. So all the strength and power and speed and like all is there, and I should be in the top 10 javelin throwers. The only problem is my javelin is not flying 80 meters, it's flying 55, 53. And we are thinking, okay, I probably need to be faster, stronger, more powerful. So there's more training into it, and I'm getting more strong, I'm getting more powerful, faster, but the javelin doesn't fly. And so one day in the training session, like I've completed the training session, And I think to myself, what kind of Olympian are you if you don't throw another round of 5? And so I unpack my bag. I go into another round of 5, but obviously the nervous system was already done. I was done. And then I suffered terrible injury of my elbow. And of course, now from the goal going to the Olympics, suddenly the goal is how do I cut or slice of bread or whatever? How do I, hold anything in my hand?
Performance to handicap.
Exactly. Within a second.
Yeah.
100th of a second. And so we started sort of studying how do I rehab myself, because I could see that no one knows anything about it, really. And then we stumbled upon approach called functional training. A friend of ours who was doing an internship at Mike Boyle's in Boston, who we grew up with this guy, and he came to our hometown and he told us about Mike Boyle. So we were doing some research, and then I'm thinking, oh man, this is interesting. So from functional training, we go to functional movement systems, functional movement screen, and we start studying. And the more we're studying, the more we realize, because Adnan has an undergraduate degree in sports, has a master's in kinesiology, so he's deep into the topic and the subject, and we think we know a lot, but the more we read, the more we realize, man, we've been doing so many wrong things for so long, and no wonder we are not in London, And so we started discovering, we sat down, had an honest conversation with ourselves, said to each other, you have no idea, you don't know what you're doing. Let's empty this cup. Let's start from the beginning, because there are a lot of things we need to learn. And that was our exposure to the FMS. I think it was 2012, 13 that we're sort of discovering things. And then 2014, we've attended live, or actually not live, online certification, level 1. That was like the official, now we are certified. And that's when we sort of started implementing it with clients rigorously. And from that moment on, it was just a flight.
There's one thing that we've got to know. Your partner in crime has a huge background in exercise, but that wasn't your PhD track. You told us you were studying for a PhD while becoming a javelin thrower. So we're all going to assume it's biomechanics, it's exercise science. But there is one thing that I wanted to say, especially to our collective degree. Isn't it funny how we call our studies exercise science? Because baked in that statement is the assumption that everybody needs to exercise. There was a point where nobody exercised.
Yeah.
It took all of that just to get you through the day. And so when we start looking at, we've got cultures that use exercise so they'll be better in war, so they'll live long. There's a martial component to it. There's a longevity component to it. So exercise has been evolving. But I realized in my career that it's sort of like the tail wagging the dog. Now we're making movement decisions based on exercise instead of making exercise decisions based on movement. Watching a baby learn to walk teaches you everything you should learn about movement. And if you ever lose one of those shapes or positions to get where you are, the tree just lost a root system. And we've always talked that way, but I think the movement screen is a living, breathing example of saying you don't have to move perfectly, but you do have to move good enough. And that is something that I never learned in exercise science, physical therapy, or sports medicine. We would always go right to the isolated problem, add the recommended exercise or therapy, never check our work, and walk away thinking we did something, not realizing that the number one statistic is if your risk of injury goes up, having had a previous injury is probably the biggest contributor to that. It means one of two things. You're not fully recovered or rehabbed, or you're permanently altered forever. Both of those things can be true, and we don't know which one it is without those baselines. And so that movement baseline, actually thinking that I could prescribe an exercise without having your movement profile or signature. So back to your PhD. What the heck is your PhD when you're throwing the javelin and working with a guy who has a huge background in exercise? What's your PhD?
My PhD is in comparative criminal law. So I'm an organized crime guy.
Well, but I think, Gray and I are definitely opposites. Anybody who meets us can see that really, really quickly. And I think one reason I see now why you have been successful in the business, which is really what I want to get into, is that Adnan, your brother, has the traditional exercise kinesiology background, and your background definitely adds a uniqueness. And I think both of those together has really created that recipe.
Thank you, Lee, for bringing this up. A couple of months ago, we were in Belgrade in the conference, sitting together, having a breakfast, and I said to him, you know what? When I think back at what we have done, and it's just amazing that people will, pay to come and listen to us, to hear what we have to say, to learn from us, to whatever, spend some time with us. I said, I don't think two Almirs would be able to do this. And I don't think two Adnans would be able to do this. We really needed to bring some special, unique sets of skills, but to share the same vision. And the fact that we had that really helped a lot. And we hear it often that it's not common that, two brothers, can work together that well. But we've sort of, over the years, we've managed to find ways to really find a common grounds and work on it for the benefit of everyone.
Oh, I've got a philosophical term. Crimes against homeostasis, crimes against function, crimes against physical development. And you're investigating those crimes, and we all make them. We all basically cover up the pain and push through it. I mean, our commercials in the US tell us that. Don't stop playing tennis, just take more ibuprofen. It never even occurred to us that that's not a breakfast food or a vitamin. That's a cover up for a problem. So we create crimes in our sleep and our function and our dorsiflexion every day. And so having that investigative background, I think teaches you how to cut through bullshit a little bit quicker than the average person. Your focus on where did the crime start is actually, I think, what we've got to bring to training these days, because we all commit crimes that we don't know we're committing. And so not only investigating that, but then articulating that in a way that everybody can understand is, I think, unbelievably helpful, because everybody's got to understand what your investigation proved. Everybody from the jury to the judge to...
You have to be able to bring the message across. And
yes.
And communication is very important.
Yeah, the functional movement technology has not really changed much since we put it through our own little petri dish. But the way we've had to learn to communicate about that and talk about that and flesh it out. And to this day, I would still rather teach a workshop and make you do a movement screen on somebody and have one done on you first. Now I'll answer your questions. Please don't ask me questions before we do this, because you're going to regret some of those. And I am too, because
Well, part of your story, Almir, that really is interesting, I think it will be interesting to everyone, is that you and your brother went all in 2017 with this being the foundation. And I by no means want people to think that the FMS is the end all be all. It's just part of the process that you laid out. But what I have found interesting, I think Gray too, and talking to you two this morning, is the process that you established. So in 2017, you all went all in, opened up your facility. Tell us how it went.
Yeah. So basically, Adnan had his gym since 2008. I bought a gym in 2013. And then that was about time when we were sort of starting to really get into the FMS idea and functional training and all that. We started working on it, and then we realized, this really makes total sense. Some of the encounters that we had with professors of anatomy, with orthopedic surgeons, help us understand and appreciate better what the knowledge is that we have. So we decided, 2015, he's going to sell his gym. He's going to move to Sarajevo. We'll start working together. With 2015 to beginning of 2016, within 6 months, by applying the principles of functional training, by basing everything on the movement, functional movement, everything we've learned from the FMS, we've helped 25 plus kids break records of Bosnia and Herzegovina in the sports that they participated in. So it was track and field, it was swimming, and it was speed skating. So sports that you have objective parameters, no judges, no whatever. It's like time is the best judge. You are either faster or you're not fast. And so their parents would bring kids with problems, with issues, with pain, we would deal with those, and the kids would suddenly become, successful again, the best in their disciplines. And that was the moment when we realized, okay, this is something we really can work on. This is something that makes total sense. This is the approach we want to take. And we decided, let's go and look for the place to go and start a company. So 2000.
Quick question.
Yeah.
When you're working with these elite kids in these different sports, they have other coaches, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So first thing, and I definitely want you to keep going, but how did the specific sport coaches accept the approach you were taking? Were they just glad that you unbroke these people, or was there friction and conflict? And obviously you arrived at a conflict resolution, because I know a lot of people, if you, as a strength conditioning consultant, physical therapist, athletic trainer, say something against a baseball pitching coach or a golf pro or a swim coach, they're going to get, without even understanding that you're trying to make their job easier, they're going to say, don't challenge the way I train my athletes. But at the same time, your athlete is unsuccessful and broken.
Yeah.
Who gets to challenge you?
Yeah. We've had a lot of situations like that one.
How did you?
It was almost exclusively, it was a pushback.
Okay.
Because by screening a kid and explaining to a parent what's happening within the body, how the body moves, why the kid is in pain and wants to quit the sport.
Right.
And then explaining, because we say, look, we need to protect him for a moment, just to remove the negatives, like takes things out that he shouldn't be doing. And then he says, but he was doing that this morning in session. I say, yeah, I know he was doing it. That's what kids would normally do. But I suggest you don't do it. At the beginning, we've made a couple of mistakes in the wording, like, we have in the slides those, oh my God, like, you don't do this when you interpret the results,
Right.
So we've done those mistakes a couple of times at the beginning, but then we realized that in communicating, what we are finding is a very important thing, because we don't want to blame that coach. That coach wants the best for the kid.
Absolutely.
He wants the kid
Very
to
good.
succeed.
Yes.
For him, for the kid, for the parents, for the club, for everyone. So the fact that he's not doing the best job is not his intent. It is just the lack of knowledge. And we are bringing another set of skills, some new knowledge, some new information. And that's how we sort of navigated through these harsh conflicts, so to say. We've never managed to establish a strong relationship with any club, with any coach. So we ended up not even pursuing that path. We'd said, okay, we are here to help those who want us to help them. And then it's usually parents. It's parents who had a broader understanding, who had the health of their kids in focus, who are not that much focused on the performance. And if they are focused on the performance, then they make an effort to communicate to the skills coach that this is what they need to be doing. And those are the things that they will not be doing in the club, because we have said so. And yeah, it was a bit slower uptake of everything we've been doing. We were hoping when we started, because we started all in, we started 2017 all in by investing absolutely all the money that we had in it. The first day we opened, it was Friday the 13th, October 13th, 2017. That's how much we believed in it. It's 13, never mind. Friday, never mind. We start. So we invested all in, no money in reserve. We didn't know at the time about Thomas Plummer and his advice, like how much money you need.
Neither do we.
Yeah,
he asked us, do we have a business plan? And I looked at Lee and said, I don't know, do we?
Yeah. So anyway, but we believed in the system. We really believed in the system so much because we've seen it works. And we've proven it works on a number of occasions on different populations of different age. And we knew this is it. And so it was, from that moment on, it was a no-brainer for us. Just work on it. We were hoping it would be like, like this. We would quickly become the most recognized place to go. At the beginning, people were laughing at us because we do some silly exercises. Then when we started showing results, we got the resentment, we got the pushback and bad mouth, about everything we do. And nowadays they reach out to us and ask where the next education is.
So but it was all primarily word of mouth.
Yes.
Word of mouth. That's why it took a while. It was grassroots.
Yeah.
From someone coming in, having success, they go tell someone else. And that's what a lot of people a lot of professionals that are going to try to do what you and your brother did assume. You open the doors up and people just come in, or you do a lot of Facebook ads and that's what does it. That might get you a client once, but sustainability is you got to take that one client and turn that one client into a happy client. And that's what's going to make you have more people walking in the door. But I want you to walk us through, because I think one thing that you all do, what you were talking to Gray and I about, which kind of brings into your background again, is walk us through that first visit. And what you have done to me resonated quite well. Knowing your background, it makes total sense. But the pushback Gray and I get is, I don't have enough time to do a movement screen, or I don't have time to do this or that. Walk us through, I think, your recipe, which is that first visit.
Yeah, the first visit is something we don't rush at all. We take time to prepare for the first visit. So when we know there's going to be a new client coming in, let's say Lee is recommending Gray. Gray is going to come for the screen. I'm going to be talking to you, Lee, asking about Gray, what he does, how old is he? Do you know if he's had any sort of injury? I want to know a little bit about him. I want to know if he's married. I want to know if he's got kids. If he's played sport, what sport? His kids what sports do they play? Do you have his Instagram or social media account of any kind? Then I'll go into that social account. I'll go and check and see whether he's...
You're going pretty deep, man.
But it takes what? It takes maybe 10, 15 minutes.
That's crazy,
for me
to
check whether you like hiking, whether you like hunting, fishing. Maybe you are with the boys enjoying a couple of drinks somewhere at the seaside or at the lake, in mountains. I don't know. So I want to have this information. Why? Because when you come to me, I'll have this one opportunity to bring the message across, how important it is that you understand what's happening with your body now and what's going to be happening with your body in the years to come. So when we interpret the results of the screen, I'll be making sure that I don't talk only about you, Gray, in particular, but I'll say, and this problem, for example, if we find this in a kid who does sports, then this results in problem number one, problem number two. Then the kid might have an issue with the rolled ankle will affect how the knee works, and it's going to impact the hip and the core stabilization, etc. Like, all this story, but we make sure that we bring this message across. And the next thing that happens, while I'm interpreting the results, Gray is thinking, I need to bring my 2 kids to this assessment as well. And so he's going to go to work. He's going to tell to Adnan, his office buddy, that he should bring his kids to this place. And so that's how we've managed to sort of reach out to a wider audience, to get a chance to speak to more people, to present more results. And then there was another thing that sort of happened to us almost accidentally, which then we integrated into our approach. 2017, when I told you we started a company, moved to a big facility, equipment performed better, Kaiser, like we really made an effort. And it's 1,000 square meters. None of that existed in Bosnia at the time, anything similar. There is a wellness, recovery, regeneration spot. Like all that is there. We think because we provide this kind of service at this kind of facility, we should be raising our prices. So we double our prices, knowing actually some clients will leave. But if we lose half of the clients and we stay with half, then we're good to go because we'll be able to cover the costs. And then we'll be developing from there. What happens is that all those clients leave us at the end of October. So come November, we have no clients. And we really have to make an effort to bring enough people in to cover the costs. Because, as I said at the beginning, we've given everything we had to get into that facility. We have no savings anymore. Not a single penny. And then we started bringing more people in. We didn't have time to do these intro session one after the other. And then we said, why don't we group them? Like, let's take 3 kids together with 3 parents. Parents are sitting, we screen 3 kids, but then parents see that kids move differently. And then when we interpret the results, then they realize and understand how important it is that the program their kid goes through is really adjusted to that kid, not some general program.
Yes.
It needs to be individualized program. And it doesn't make sense that we train and work with 25 kids absolutely the same way, assuming they move equally well or equally bad, And I think
you're doing profiling, but in many times in criminal justice, profiling is done for a negative reason, but your profiling is saving time, energy, effort,
absolutely.
and everything. And the other thing that I observed is when your model wasn't efficient, you questioned the efficiency, not the effectiveness. You spent time getting effective, knowing that you were making a difference. But making money, making a difference is a whole different thing. A lot of times, I think one of the biggest obstacles Lee and I run into is, how's that going to make me more money in 6 months? And my whole point is, if our system doesn't make you better in 6 months, then it doesn't have any potential to make you more money in 6 months. But if our situation makes you better, your own local business, your finger on the pulse of your community, shows you how to deliver an effective result efficiently. And so I love what you just said. One-on-one was costing us time and money we didn't have, but actually the group setting allows you to articulate your message better, because people, you don't have to tell them in your ad copy that you have an individualized approach. Everybody who's paying the bill for that approach just witnessed it in real time. They saw the chef in the kitchen through the glass window, and my meal is going to be slightly different than theirs because of my needs. That's a huge thing, but you were effective and you figured out how to be efficient.
Yeah, I mean,
most people reverse that.
But
They
you
want to
still-
make money, and
You still profiled the 3 people coming in.
Oh yeah,
You still
yeah.
knew,
Of course.
and you still spoke to
Of
each
course.
one of them. And I think what I heard you also say, before we started, I want to make sure we touch on, is that one of the things you found so helpful is that the kids and the parents could see what the other kids were doing.
Exactly.
And I think that resonated with them as well.
Absolutely, because then they really understand. And then some of the conversation you have after those sessions is like, is it possible that we've never seen this before? How can it be that no one else is doing this? How come that no club does this? How come that no coach really understands this? Because we see from the stands when we are watching these kids, we see that they don't move well, but we don't know what the problem is. So what we do, we hire another skill coach. It's like, you want to improve his skill by adding more skill to the, it just doesn't make sense. And then they start realizing. And those aha moments for parents were, I think, the most important part, because at the beginning, vast majority of our clients were younger people, kids. And as the time went by, we have now sort of, we have a wide range of clients with different musculoskeletal or metabolic issues as our clients. But nevertheless, the approach remained the same. We do screening, we do metabolic testing, then we do the interpretation. Nowadays, you'll have Adnan sometimes sit in a room with 12, 15 people. If we've been traveling, like we are now traveling, coaches have been testing and screening. We will set up an appointment. People will come into our diagnostic room. Adnan is going to make a classroom, put the things on TV, whiteboard, and he's going to do interpretation in the form of a lecture. 2 hours, 2.5 hours. People will be just sitting there learning about the body. Exactly.
Scared they're not going to come back. They're going to get so educated in fitness that they won't need you anymore. And I mean,
we are not concerned that we would like to see coaches more educated. We would like to see clients more educated. I think that's our job, to empower clients. We don't want, the idea is, okay, yes, we have the knowledge. We can solve your problems. But it doesn't make sense that you stay with us forever. We want to solve your problem. We give you the tools and understanding of your body so that you can deal with it better. You can keep it better. If you need us, we'll always be there. But in principle, you need to learn things that you were never taught by anyone, and then go on with the life. If you need us.
So as of today, you went from basically in November of 2017 not having any clients.
Yeah.
To now that you're you're very successful.
Yeah. I mean, it's just unbelievable in this fitness industry. Depending on what markers you take, sort of, but if you understand that after the COVID 2021, we went to a bank and said, look, we want to buy a facility, we want to buy a building. So by doing this, we've managed to buy a 1,000 square meter facility in the capital of Bosnia and Herzegovina. And revenues that we make, it's official figures. One can always go and check. But this will be, I was doing some comparison. I was interested in learning, how it compares to United States. And when I took some parameters into account, what we make in Sarajevo in local currency would be equivalent to us making here around $3 million annually in revenue, with a profit margin of around 50%.
That's very impressive.
Yeah,
That is
So
very.
the
But
lesson-
and we always say to coaches when they come to us, they say, look, we don't have magic exercises. We don't have any magic pills. We do what you do.
Yep.
But if you do it in a systematic way, if you do it consistently, if you stick to the principles, if you stick to the rules, and you have to add the business rules to it. You have to understand that this is
Totally
a business.
agree.
At some
Totally
point,
agree. Yes.
it is a business. Now, you cannot run a business without following business rules. You cannot run a training program without running training principles. So if you put these together, do it consistently for long enough, produce results, people keep coming, then you are able to really live off of this profession, because this is a brilliant profession. We often say that it's the most potent profession that we see at the moment. If I was to decide what to study now, I'd probably go into physical therapy. And the reason being is that as a physical therapist, I can work as a coach. But as a coach, I cannot work as a physical therapist.
And you see right now, based on the work we've done, when we originally did the functional movement screen, Lee and I were particularly blown away that 20% of the kids that just passed their pre-participation medical sports physical had pain on the movement screen in one of the patterns. If we make the movement screen easier, take out the push-up and the lunge, and just have you touch your toes, squat, turn and twist, reach, and balance, we have almost a 40% fail rate in the general public right now. So to your point, 40% of these people may not need physical therapy, but it'd be a good idea if we checked out that pain before we started issuing sets, reps, and resistance. Once the physical therapist had a chance to check them out, I would go ahead and make a conservative estimate. 20% of the people I just evaluated should probably go be with you for a month and let this change happen slowly when we're getting all your other rhythms and cycles and patterns in check. So even though 40% of the people on many of our screens and intakes say you need to be checked out, I hope you didn't hear me say you need to be in rehabilitation. You need to be seen by a rehabilitation specialist to see if you can get out of this hole with structure, organization, integrity, transparency. And I would much rather do assessments on people who are never going to come to therapy. But the way the therapy business is set up, we only make money if you consume therapy, not if we issue a therapeutic standard and give you options. Do you want to work with me and try to rehab this really quick before ski season? Or do you want to grow this slow so you'll be running marathons next year? Because I can't get you to marathons. I can get you out of a limp. He can get you to marathons.
Yeah.
And so I think people are scared. Trainers are scared. If we find pain in all our clients and we don't have physical therapy services, how can we proceed? You can easily proceed, but let's find out why they're in pain, because some of these people will not respond well to a functional approach. They have a burden. They have a neurological, metabolic, they're type 2 diabetic with a frozen shoulder. They're going to need some work. Exercise ain't going to do this alone. But having that conversation right up front allows you that if I've got team members that appreciate this approach and will each play the role, I'm going to basically say, good to go. Let me check them if you have problems. I probably need to see this one. And that's easy. And so I think a lot of people are scared to do tests that generate pain because they don't want that pain to go to a healthcare model that's broken. And I agree, but there are so many more options once we have the profile,
Yeah.
once we know the situation, once we know the risk factors, you know?
Yeah, I mean, what we've seen is obviously we have a physical therapy of our own because we appreciate the importance, the relevance, and they are not physios who understand the way we think. So we've established our own physical therapy, and we had head of that therapy who is SFMA certified. So we know things are under control there. But this can be seen as also as a business opportunity for people. Okay, you don't have the physical therapy understanding or knowledge or expertise. Just find a way, like radius of whatever, 20 minutes, find physios, have a conversation, have a cup of coffee, whatever, discuss, see who is where doing what, and then use your client, say, look, I'm going to cover for the cost of the first therapy with this physio. Go there, get checked. This is going to be free for you.
Powerful.
Right?
That's powerful.
The physio is going to really appreciate that I'm bringing a new patient. And he's not only going to bring me that patient back, but he's going to know that I exist, I stimulate or support his business. So when he has a client who is out of pain, has a range of motion, whatever, needs to exercise, he's going to send them to me. So me not having the knowledge of physical therapy doesn't really mean that I shouldn't use the benefit of it in a way that I've just described.
Well, that is so unique because Lee had a conversation yesterday with a guy who literally is the director of a wellness center owned by a hospital system. The number one comment that came out of some of our discussions on educating the staff is we refer to physical therapy, but physical therapy doesn't refer back to us. And the very first thing I thought is, you're both working for the same person. How come somebody's missing this? Because I can honestly tell you, even in a course of physical therapy, if your mother comes to me for after knee surgery, just because I get her through therapy doesn't mean she's risk-free or functional. It just means I can't bill insurance for what's wrong with her knee anymore because it's good enough to walk around the neighborhood and go up and down steps. But that doesn't mean that's her goal. That means that was interfering with her goal, which may be losing weight or going on a long hike somewhere. So the fact that we've got a system that the trainer respects physical therapy, but physical therapy doesn't respect the trainer is still a broken model because that patient's going to be back in therapy. And I don't want that patient in therapy once every 3 years. I want that patient in therapy. Let's get you over here. You're either going to become independently functional and well, or you're going to be in a structured system that keeps you as close to that as possible. And so not having referrals work in both directions is a breakdown in the system, because most of the time when Lee and I would go into a professional sports team, sports medicine looks at the problem differently than strength conditioning does. And we get to this area. We call it the hallway in between sports medicine and conditioning. You're too good to be on my table, but you're not good enough for that shit yet, right? And so a lot of people get lost in the middle space of, I'm not broken enough for rehab, but I'm not fit enough for training. Well, that's a rehab and training problem. They got to grow together, and not having a standardized movement appraisal across the board is where our big problem starts. Every entity, health, wellness, fitness, and performance, each likes to look at movement in their little lane and not carry this movement signature across board. Movement patterns shouldn't hurt. They should be mobile and stable enough, and they should be symmetrical enough. And we spent 20 years figuring out what enough
Not
is.
perfect, but just enough. Yeah.
But one of the things, so I think what that description of what you said, creating that network, it certainly can be successful. But going back to what I think maybe not a secret anymore, Almir, that I believe is just sitting here talking or listening to you talk through this, is that initial assessment. That initial time that you're taking, I think too often, in my opinion, the fitness professional does not or underestimates the importance of that. They'll check the boxes, they'll do a PARQ, they'll do a little bit of things, maybe they'll do an FMS, but none of that will influence their training. And they won't take the time to do what I think you're doing, and that's allowing enough time to educate the client And so I want you to, again, kind of get back to, and I know you got something on the tip of your tongue. I'm just going to get this out and talk here. Is you do the screen, but you also said you do metabolics. So I want you to talk about that piece. But then you do that testing, and then you say, all right, after all of that, now let's sit down and let's review what that means. Is that safe?
Exactly? Yes. What I wanted to say is the following. I don't know if I got that from Mike Boyle or who was it, but there was a line saying, your clients, they don't care about how much you know until they know how much you care. I don't know. It may even be from one of you or Mike. I don't know.
I think most of us have said that. And I think it goes back probably 50, 100 years. But a lot of us have adopted that because it means everything.
But that's the essence. The thing is, I can be as good of a coach as you can possibly imagine. That doesn't mean anything to a Paul from whatever, to someone guy, John Doe. What he's going to be willing to commit to is when he understands what's happening within the body. Now, me doing a screen and just getting him through the exercises, it's not going to do anything. It's going to solve the problem, but he's not going to appreciate what we've done for him. Now, once I do the screen and I take time to explain to him how the body actually moves. Like there's a reason why we have ankles and knees and hips and spine, and why spine has these segments and how they behave differently. And why is it so? And how it is affected by breathing, and how these all things come together. And then he starts understanding the problem that he has. Now he is willing to commit for a longer period of time to work on his health, to be better. And I think, if anything, just the communication and the understanding, the awareness is one of the greatest assets that we can have as coaches by utilizing any type of tool. And for us, it's the FMS. And we always say, we know FMS is not the only thing in the world. We don't even care. Use whatever you want. Just make sure you use something to set the baseline. If you're not setting the baseline, you're in trouble. And we always say in our educations, whenever we have a chance, like Google Maps, brilliant tool. But there's a couple of things you need to say. Where you are now and where you want to go.
That's right.
If you don't say that, you'll be lost.
And if you think you're somewhere you're not, that's a big problem too.
And in principle, people come with the B point, where they want to be. They never know where they are.
And isn't it funny that many people are better than they thought need to be told, we can push this, and many people are worse than. Very few people come in self-aware. And one of the things I learned in professional athletics is in pro sports, the people who last longer, they don't just, sometimes they have better movement screens, sometimes they don't, but they're 100% aware of what they don't have, and they express their talent in other ways. So the self-awareness is actually, to me, more important than the ability. Because if you're self-aware of a lack of ability, you're still safe.
Yeah.
And that safety is important, because we can change your competency, but only you can change your safety.
For sure.
You gotta help me protect this, because the way I shop it is, when I'm talking to a young athlete, I think I know what'll make you better, but let's discuss everything that would make this situation worse. Dehydration, sleep deprivation, not warming up correctly, having pain and not telling somebody. Every one of these things will make this worse. So
that brings me back to the question, Lee, about the metabolic stuff, right?
Yeah.
So for a very long period of time, we were known to be as a go-to place for musculoskeletal issues, okay? Basing everything on the FMS, dealing with musculoskeletal issues. But then we started realizing musculoskeletal health is affected by so many things, right? Which later on you guys have transferred into the SEMIO. And so you cannot ignore these streams of life that
it's going to affect the outcome, whether you manage it or not. And you're going to get blamed for it.
Yeah.
So
And then we started questioning ourselves, like, how come with some clients we have good results, with some clients we don't have good results? We apply the same principles. And then you're sort of, it's easier to say, yeah, but this guy, he's not listening to us, he's not sleeping, he's drinking alcohol, he's smoking, he's dehydrated, whatever. But then we're wondering, what can we do to get a grip on some additional information? Not everyone can wear an Oura ring in that part of it. You cannot even buy it in Boston, right? And so we said, okay, let's see what we can do. We searched the market, and we've come across the technologies that can help us. They're portable enough, but that are gold standard in medicine, that we can do proper metabolic testing.
Love
So
it.
we've introduced metabolic testing. We do resting metabolic test. We do spirometry with 3-minute full inhale, exhale to see what the FBC is. Properly.
Breathing efficiency
exactly,
is basically
breathing
what. So if
efficiency,
somebody,
exactly.
if somebody's functional, you have a number.
Yeah.
If somebody's better than functional, you have a number. And if somebody hasn't made function, you have a number. So if we've got a breathing functional issue and a mobility and stability problem, my hierarchy is I don't stop working on mobility and stability, but everything I do for mobility and stability has some breathing built in to make them hyper aware of a shallowness or an incapacity somewhere. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Absolutely. And then after that, we do the ergospirometry, like the proper ramp test type of thing. So we get the client exposed to different intensities so we can understand how the physiology works. What's the energy consumption at which intensities? It's more about sort of fat oxidation where the carbs kick in. And then we can, once we understand how you move and we understand your physiology, we can then individualize your program. Then our clients get into the gym, they get the heart rate monitors, they have individualized programs, and at any given point in time, we know and they know exactly what they need to do, what intensity, which way, make sure that we are keeping them on the right path.
So your first initial visit is 3 to 4. How many people come in together?
Are you
doing
one-on-one? With the introduction of the metabolic testing, now that because of the protocols for the metabolic testing, now the testing is done now again because coaches are now equipped. Coaches are now doing full test. So if you come for test, it's going to be 1 hour. It's going to be resting metabolic testing. You're just laying down. After that, you'll go into the FMS because you cannot be warmed up. Then you'll do the spirometry because we don't want to activate your, diaphragm and everything else because it might assist you in the functional movement screen. So it's breathing is after the FMS, and then we go into the active test. So that's 45, 50 minutes up to an hour, depending on the client. We get that done. A couple of those are done. 5 of them, 6 of them, Adnan will schedule an interpretation session. They'll come into our facility, they sit down, and Adnan is going to be giving a lecture of 2.5 hours. Now interpreting all the information for them.
Now, do I have to sign a 6-month contract to even start this process?
No, you can come in, just be screened, get the information, get our recommendations, suggestions, what you need to be doing. You're free to go.
And you're that confident in your presentation that you're not scared you're going to lose money by doing that and then not getting a commitment.
Absolutely.
Then I want our listeners to hear that, because that level of confidence in your intake means you would almost give it away because you know you're going to be able to cash in on the way you're going to present the case. And most people don't get that.
We are so confident that I think it's safe to say that if you enter into our facility and you came for a reason to be tested to see what's going on with your body,
right?
Chances of you not signing with us probably below 2%.
That's beautiful, and I attribute this back to that criminal justice profiling thing, because I don't do that, but in a way I try to, while I'm seeing a patient. A lot of times I have a patient for 2 days because they're a pro athlete and I got to make some decisions for them and their team or something like that. But their personality type, introverted, extroverted, judging or feeling, if they're very into their body or I have to make them self-aware, I'm thinking about all that as I communicate back to them. I can't imagine how much more powerful it is to know a little bit more about their hobby, their occupation, and some of the responsibilities they have, and some of the people they're caring for, right? So you get a little bit of a personality, a little bit of a physical metabolic profile, and you know a little bit of likes and dislikes. Dude, you just cooked me the perfect meal. And how did you know I needed that? Well, you've been listening.
Exactly. I think that's very important. And I don't know, it slipped my mind. I wanted to say something now, but never mind, probably get to it later. But it's just too important. And yeah, what gives us the confidence is just we know it works.
But,
And
your intake process is not something you feel.
It's not random. It's not random at all. It's very specific. It's very planned. We know what we want to achieve. But what gives us confidence is we know we are not selling a fog. We are solving problems. We are improving your health. We are improving your performance. And we don't do it by saying we are good coaches. We don't assume anything. We do detailed screening, testing. Based on this, we adjust the program to fit you at this very moment. And we follow it through. You can come in and be we work with some of the best athletes Bosnia and Herzegovina has ever had. But you coming in as the second fastest man on planet on 800 meters doesn't mean anything to me. I love you. We're brothers. You'll be screened first.
That's right. That's right.
And then what's most revealing to people, to our other clients, when they come and sit down with the second fastest man on planet on 800 meters, Amel Tuka, they sit on the floor, do the foam rolling together, and they go like, we do the same workout? Yeah, because believe it or not, Amel Tuka just entered with 2 ankles, 2 knees, hips, spine, and the heart, lungs, and brain. Like he didn't come in with 8 legs.
I could put you at any performance conference in our country, and less than 10% of the people will get what you just said. That the fact that flossing your freaking teeth is the same whether you're an Olympic gold medalist or whether you only have 3 teeth. Because there is a fundamental component of movement. What's your state of readiness today? The threat of that environment is way higher because they're going to an unbelievable high performance situation. The threat of my environment today is not that high. But the fact that we both have movement minimums that we have to stay within blows people away. People think that high performers work out different. They've got to work out more specific and they got to recover just as good. You know, and I love that commonality that you just articulated.
And that's what we say to coach, because a lot of coaches, when they start just their career, they're starting their career and they are concerned, am I equipped to work with this type of client? Am I equipped to work with this? I say, look, man, if you got the right tools and you understand the principles, by understanding what the FMS brings you on the table, anyone entering this door, I don't know what kind of level of sport or performance he is, or completely untrained, has never been to a gym in his or her life, you apply the principles, stick to it, you'll see how it works. And you can work with anyone. And so we've tried to motivate people to just acquire knowledge, to learn things simple, focused, specific, apply it consistently, just stay with it, stick with it, see the results, and then you can come and thank us later.
Almir, right there, man. I think that was a great way to end things. You know, there are certain nuances, but stick to the principles, be consistent, empower the clients and people you work with, knowledge about their own, and so they can become more aware. Everything we're talking about, everything we talk about here at FMS, it's a behavioral change. And behavior change starts with awareness. And I think that's what you all do better than most, I would say, around the world. So can't thank you enough for coming in and taking the trip. Chatham, Virginia is not easy to get to, especially from Sarajevo. So I can't thank you both enough for coming and spending some time with us and being on site. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We really appreciate the visit. We appreciate everything you've given us over the years without even knowing us. Hopefully, you know, the years to come will be a testimony of what we can do together.
I get concerned that somebody won't watch my whiteboards all the way through, and you're telling me you watch them 2 or 3 times. But believe it or not, when I'm consuming new information, I do the exact same thing. A good audiobook, I'll give it 2 runs. A good lecture, I'll listen to it twice. A wonderful TED Talk. So, I mean, at least somebody's listening.
Main sources have to be revisited over and over.
Thank you.
If you want to learn more about today's podcast or dive deeper into functional movement systems information, check out some of the resources and offers we're providing in the description. That will do it for this episode of the Movement Podcast.
Thanks for listening. And if you liked what you heard, please take a minute and subscribe and review.
If you want to learn more about our system and take the next step in your own movement journey,
visit us at movementpod.com.
Until next time, be sure to first move well,
then move often.